In the winter of 1856, as storms swept across the Atlantic and the world stood on the edge of political earthquakes, a single steamship, America, carried across the ocean a bundle of news that revealed a United States that is struggling to hold itself together, a Congress unable to choose its own speaker, a frontier territory arming itself for war, a president preparing dueling messages for a government that wasn't functioning, and a diplomatic tension with Britain that could, at any moment, ignite into something far more dangerous. These are not the headlines of a modern crisis. They are the quiet tremors of a nation still young, still fragile, still uncertain of the path ahead tonight. We open a forgotten column from the Illustrated London News, January 1856, and step into an America caught between expansion, conflict, and political paralysis. And now, the report begins. The steamship America, which left Boston on the 19th of July, arrived at Liverpool on Monday last. At the moment of her departure, the House of Representatives in Washington had still been unable to elect a speaker. A house without a speaker, meaning no laws, no budgets, no governance, a democracy frozen in place. 64 ballotings had taken place over 13 days and all had failed. The final tally stood Banks 106, Richardson 73, Fuller 38, Leicester 2. Absolute deadlock. A split nation draining its energy on procedure while the frontier burned. A motion was proposed by Mr. Thorington of Iowa to adopt a plurality rule, but before the vote could proceed, the House adjourned. The friends of Mr. Banks believe the rule will pass, ensuring his election. This was the rise of the Black Republicans, the early force that would later unify under Lincoln. But in 1856 they were still a chaotic alliance fighting the old political order. The New York Times, quoted next, adds, "Our advices from Washington do not lead us to anticipate a speedy organization of the House. Unless some of the middlemen supporting Mr. Fuller give way, the monotonous roll-calling may continue until March 4th, 1857. This line reveals everything even the reporters of the Times or Congress as hopelessly stuck. The American government, just decades after its founding, was already wrestling with internal divisions so deep it could not perform the simplest task. But the storm clouds were not only domestic. Tensions with Britain. The New York Herald states that the president will recommend in his message the purchase of the rights and possessions of the Hudson Bay Company on the northwest coast. This is the United States eyeing the Pacific, reaching for land that was still influenced, directly or indirectly, by old European powers. The next paragraph is even more revealing. The president assured a member of Congress that he would prepare 2 messages, one original and one altered according to the news arriving from Europe aboard the Baltic. This detail shows a president adapting his official message to the tone of foreign affairs diplomacy, tension, and uncertainty braided together. Then the most explosive passage. Mr. Buchanan's papers show a settled determination on the part of the British minister, Lord Palmerston, to offer no further explanations or conciliations than those already made. Nothing more should be expected from Britain. Diplomacy had hit its limit. This was the era of naval power, and a slight, real or perceived, could drag nations into conflict. Even the subtlest diplomatic phrasing mattered. If no change came in Britain's stance by the next arrival of news, the issue would be placed immediately before Congress. In simple terms, war was not impossible. Kansas, a territory on the edge of civil war. The article continues with an update from Kansas. Reports state that the inhabitants are under arms, answering the call of Governor Shannon. 3,000 men are already in the field to put down the opponents of law and order. A violent collision is expected. This is the early shadow of the American Civil War. Kansas was bleeding. Pro-slavery and anti-slavery militias marched, burned towns, seized ballot boxes and killed each other. A preview of the national catastrophe that would come only a few years later. While Congress argued over a speaker, Kansas prepared for war. Religious pageantry in Havana. Advices from Havana mention a grand religious celebration in the Church of San Carlos to strengthen belief in the Immaculate Conception. The 3-day pageant ended with cockfights, bullfights, and military parades. A strange blend of devotion and spectacle faith, bloodsport, and colonial power all woven into one event. Mexico, government collapsing. Reports from Veracruz and Mexico City describe a conspiracy to make General Urga president. Nega Padre Miranda and Colonel Asolo were arrested. Colonel Robles was appointed minister to Washington. Rumours suggested Comonfort might resign. And then, President Pierce has advices of the absolute overthrow of the Alvarez government in Mexico. The effect is favourable to the American assignees of the $3 million indemnity. Mexico was in chaos, one of many cycles of coups and counter-coups in the 19th century. And as always, powerful neighbours watched carefully, calculating what the instability could offer them. This single newspaper column paints a picture of a Western Hemisphere in turmoil, the United States unable to govern itself internally, paralyzed by a political fracture, Kansas sliding toward violence that foreshadowed the Civil War, Britain and America locked in a diplomatic stare-down, Mexico on the brink of another governmental collapse, Cuba mixing religion with spectacle in a way only the 19th century could produce. This is not just news, it is a map of pressure points, fault lines beneath a continent that would soon crack open. The year 1856 was not yet a year of full war, but the storm was building, and as this newspaper quietly recorded, the world could feel the tremor. History hides its warnings in the ordinary. A steamship's arrival, a stalled Congress, a forgotten diplomatic phrase, a small uprising on the frontier, but together they become the signs of the world to come, another crisis forming, another nation changing, another truth uncovered by the black folder.